Welcome to Assistant on Air, where we talk to the experts behind the Google Assistant. I'll be your host today, Luke Davis, an engineer who works on the Actions on Google team. I build tools for developers, and I'll be interviewing my dear friend, Jessica Dene Early-Cha. Jessica, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
So I'm a developer advocate for Google Assistant. So I sit right across from you, so I get to work with you all day, which is exciting. But a lot of what I do is I get to be able to build actions for Google Assistant. And so I build out functionalities and different experiences that users can have. And by doing that, I learn more about the product. And if I see anything that's not going well, be able to tell the product team, the engineers who are building it. And then I get build out content like blogs and videos like this and share that out to the community and be able to go and meet with other developers, hear their feedback of like what's not going great. And then I could grab that and then take that feedback in and give it to the product team so we can make our product better.
So you're like an ambassador between the developer community.
Yeah, I like to think of that. Yeah, totally.
And the rest of the engineering team.
Between both, yeah. So it's a nice little, it's an interesting space because, of course, you're so close to the product that you know the ins and outs, but because you're so close, it's hard to see like those blind spots.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to like, okay, let me go and meet with actual people who are working on this and be able to feel like, oh, that doesn't make sense, or this makes sense, or maybe this is a better option, and be able to get that and make it better. So it's an amazing space.
That sounds like the most fun job ever.
Totally.
You just like, you make cool things, you talk to cool people.
Totally.
Do you have a thing that you can show us?
Oh my gosh. So I've recently been building an action that's all about supporting developers on kind of learning how to practice for whiteboarding, technical whiteboarding interviews.
Yeah.
And so I could definitely show you how to do this. And so I'm going to activate it. Hey, Google, talk to whiteboarding practice.
Sure, let's get whiteboarding practice.
Welcome back, Jessica. Let's get ready to do some whiteboarding challenges. I can give you random challenges. Are you
pretty much is it activated my action and then it talks to you. And so I could have a conversation with it and ask it for whiteboarding problems that are hard or easy. And then I could in real time be able to get a whiteboard and try to solve those problems.
That is so sweet. Did you actually have to record the audio for that?
No. So what's really great is it makes it super easy where it's just text that I send to Google Assistant, and Google Assistant will translate that text to speech. So I'm not actually having to handle all of the voices and the audio, which is really nice.
Well, I thought I heard like a ukulele or something in the background.
Yeah, there's a little bit of music on there. So I'm using what's called SSML, which is Synthetic Speak Markup Language. And you can add audio and you could add like silly voices. You can even have it where it's layered to really create a rich experience for users.
Oh, how neat. So help me understand what's actually happening here. We've got this phone. I assume you can do kind of the same thing on like a Google Home? Oh,
totally, yeah. So whether it be on a Google Home Mini, there's headphones, there's smart displays, there's so many different devices that support Google Assistant. Cool,
so the user talks to the phone or the Google Home, and they say, I want to talk to Jessica's awesome app, and then somehow some code that you wrote like gets executed and then like return to the user. So like, can you kind of walk me through what's actually happening there?
Totally, yeah. So when the user says the activation to talk to the action's name, Google Assistant will hear that and will figure out what do they mean. If that is something that's being explicitly triggered, which means it's the actual name, or if they might be able to say something like, I want to practice whiteboarding for technical interviews, could potentially trigger this as well. And so Google Assistant will figure that out and then surface it to the user. And that's when it pings my my code in my back end. Like, hey, somebody is asking for your device, for your action. And that's where I would surface the welcome greeting of like, hey, welcome to my action. And so there's that back and forth dialogue that happens. And that's something that we could be built in multiple ways. The way I built this one was using a tool called Dialogflow.
Okay, tell me about Dialogflow.
Yeah, so Dialogflow, because you can imagine we're all a little funky. We all say things a little weird. I know I'm not the best when it comes to like speaking well English. And so there's people like me out there that can make it can be a little harder to like write like a regular expression trying to bring out what I actually mean. Or imagine having to handle different ways someone might ask for something.
Yeah, that'd be a nightmare.
Right. And so Dialogflow, what that does, it uses machine learning and it becomes my natural language processor. And so what we could do with Dialogflow is I feed in, if somebody says something like this, this, and this, for it to hit my backend and this part of my code. And so for this example, I have it where if somebody says something like, give me a challenge, give me a random challenge or a hard challenge or a question, it hits my back end for code that says ask problem. And then from there, I get to look up my database on the problem I want to give them.
Right.
Send that back to Dialogflow, which sends it to Google Assistant. And this is all text. And Google Assistant translates that text to speech, sends it to the device, and then the user gets it.
How cool.
And that happens all real quick.
So you don't have to like be a machine learning expert or anything like that. Like the Dialogflow platform is what gives you this, I don't know what to think about this, like a machine learning powered regular expression almost.
Almost, yeah, it's amazing. It's such a great tool because you don't have to learn and have to know everything. You just have to be thoughtful on the types of training phrases you give it.
Training phrases,
and making sure that those training phrases fit within what your expectations are. And I like to think of they're called intents in Dialogflow.
Okay.
And I like to think of it like the functionality, like what type of options do I want to provide to my users? Like what's the functionality part? And to trigger that functionality, that's the training phrases that the user will say.
I see.
And then so when they say that, triggers that functionality, which triggers my code, and my code will respond appropriately.
Okay. And so it's in a lot of ways it's almost like a GET request to an Express server or something like that.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. I like to think of it definitely like when it comes to like web requests, you could definitely think of it as a resource that you're just asking for. And so imagine having, instead of tons of different resources available, you could use machine learning to just have one, and that if anyone says a variation of that, it triggers that one.
How neat. So can the Dialogflow platform pull details out of the user's speech?
That's a great question. Yeah, so it can. They're called entities.
Okay.
And what happens there is, for this example again, if someone asks for a question, I'll give them a random question. But if they say, I want an easy question, I should give them an easy question, right?
Yeah.
And so you could pull those out and then be able to use that in my code. So with Dialogflow, you can have that be required or not. And so if someone doesn't give it to me and I say it's required, Dialogflow will respond back, hey, what type of level do you want?
Neat.
And you could code that yourself. Or you give the option like I have, where if they give it to me, great. If they don't, I'll give them random.
How neat.
And so it depends on how you want to handle it as a developer.
That's super, super cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like there are tons of different services. Like you mentioned your phone and the actual Google Home itself.
Yeah.
Like how do you build your application to accommodate like both of those things?
Totally. And this is where it gets really interesting because when you're building, we generally recommend build voice first. Build it as though there's no screen. So that way you're actually building for the conversation. And that is, in my opinion, one of the hardest parts. And so if you could focus on that and have a really good experience when it's just voice only, that means when you have things that have device or screens, like your phone or smart displays or other elements, then you could add and enrich those using visuals to it. So that way on the different devices that are available for Google Assistant, you could have those options. And as a developer, you could know whether they have a screen or if they don't have a screen. So then you can be able to give the different experiences based off of the device that the users have.
Oh, neat. So can you, like, how far can I push this? Like, can I do other stuff, like maybe an image or something?
Totally, yeah. So when it comes to the visual components, we have, of course, images and buttons. Those little button things are called suggestion chips.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which is a great design element. So let's say if you're my user, and I ask you a question, and there's kind of common responses, instead of you having to figure out and think about it, I could just have a suggestion chip. That way it's easier for you to just be like, yeah, that option. That's what I like. Or if I have something that has like account linking and I know something about you, that your favorite color is blue, I can always make sure I offer you blue things instead of other things too.
Sweet.
And so you can have that level of kind of customized experience for your users too.
What if I wanted to make like a little robot and like put the Google Assistant in it, or want to make some kind of like cool art installation and make it like voice interactive?
Yeah. Oh gosh. First thing I'm thinking about is smart home. So if you want something where you're kind of integrating like into the IoT space, you totally can, which is really exciting. One of my coworkers recently found it's like a ball that looks that moves on its own.
Okay.
And it's he
like a little spherical robot or something?
Like a little sphere, yeah. And he just rolls around. And he connected that to an action he built out. And so he has two little girls. And his little girls tell the ball to move forward really fast or like for a long distance. And so they can control the ball with just their voice, which is adorable.
So adorable.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So you can do a lot of really cool integration. I know something that I do at my home is I don't touch light switches anymore.
Yeah.
I just tell Google Assistant to turn off my lights in the master bedroom or all the lights.
Yeah.
I even have it to where I have routines which is a Google Assistant feature where I can just tell Google, I'm going to bed or good night, and it will turn off all the lights for me, which is really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I assumed that you were doing other kinds of engineering before you got into this crazy like voice conversation world.
Yeah.
Like what are the lessons that you have had to pick up in this new space that you didn't have necessarily coming from like web or mobile development background?
Yeah, definitely. Something that whenever I do a talk, I usually tell people, because I want people to learn from my mistakes. Like I'm definitely one of those people, like I've done this mistake, please don't do it. Don't. It's not worth the time to suffer through this. So something I did that was horrible was I went to the docs and I was reading, and the first thing was like, make a design your conversation. I was like, skip. Because I want to get to the code, because I want, I'm a developer. I want to actually build something. And as I was doing that, I realized, oh crap, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's not the technical part. It's not the actually be able to like query my database to generate the response. Like that stuff is basic coding. That's not the hard part. It's the designing the conversation. And at any point, the user could say something totally random. And that's how people are. And how do you code it so it can handle that and guide the user through it?
Right.
And so when it comes to mobile development or web development, as a developer, you have a lot of control. This is my image, this is the screen, this is the page you see, and these are the buttons you have, and that's it. When it comes to conversation, you have to kind of release a lot of that control and allow your user to figure out where the boundaries are and guide them to what options you have that's possible.
It seems like such a different frame of mind than what I do when I'm building a web app.
Totally.
Like, so how do you do that? Like, what are you if you were actually to like not hit the skip, but like do the conversation design thing? Like, what does that actually look like?
Totally. So I had to do that. And now whenever I build any action, that's the first thing I do. A nice, easy way. There's tons of documentation that helps you, but something that I really like to go into is I love to get people and go, okay, you are the action and this is what you do. And I like to get someone else, you're the user, and then have the conversation and be able to write it down. That way you could see how people might say something different. And then what I like to do after that, get a little bit of a sample, is turn around and get two other random people. You're this and this is what you are, and then just document that down. And that usually gives me a nice base of like, oh, this is kind of how people talk about this concept, and they might navigate through things. And so that's one way that's really easy to be able to build out. But by all means, there's so much documentation that you could get that's out there that really helps support this. But it is kind of hard to get something that's not visual and make it and write it down, have it visual, because again, the conversation could go anywhere at any point. So that's just a starting ground to at least get you going, and then after that you start realizing, oh, people actually want you to repeat yourself every once in a while. So like coding, like that's something that you would want to have, I think, in every action to be able to have that functionality. So you start noticing some common practices from there.
So what sorts of things are, like you just said that repeating things is kind of the common functionality that lots and lots of people might want in their action. Am I getting the terminology right?
Yes.
Okay. Like what sorts of things are built in to kind of like help developers along the path of making these things a little bit easier? Like, am I going to have to write my own, I don't know, account linking software or like asking for location software, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So we provide a lot of great helpers. And so things that are something that you would want to expect, like getting someone's name. There is a helper method that you could use. And what's really nice is it's very explicit, where Google will take over and go, hey, do you want to share this information? And so it's all about user privacy first.
Oh, neat. Okay.
And so we do have some permissions that you could use to gather that information. When it comes to the user's name and their family name and their photo and like their location, not necessarily like precise location, but it could be like a zip code location. And then of course account linking, where you can build that out and be able to connect their account to a database that you might have as well. So there's tons of resources that could support that functionality too.
That's super, super cool. So I am super inspired by this thing that you've built. How long did it actually take you to put this thing together?
It's taken me a couple weeks, but that's also because I do other things during the day. And this was actually my first action I had ever built. So it took way longer because I was struggling on some parts. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And that's when I realized I need to design to like follow and be able to figure this out. I built this out, I would say, in a couple of weeks. because it was still all new and I was still learning all the other things being new to Google at that time.
So you didn't do any kind of conversational voice stuff before Google at all?
Oh, no, yeah. Well, having conversations with people, I do that all the time.
Which you're the best at.
And that's what I think is really nice, is that this space is not where it's an expertise so specialized that it's only for a few people. This is really something that everybody, since we're born, we learn how to communicate with one another, and it's all about capturing that and being able to code it and see, like, does this work? And it's still so new that there is not a definite, this is how all actions should be. Kind of like with mobile or with web, there's a sense of like best practices. This is how things should happen. And users have an expectation that if I click on something, it should go in the cart, and the cart's usually on the right top corner. Like there's certain things that users are familiar with. And with voice, we're still in this new space that there's not that norm. So this is a really exciting time to be able to get your hands in and get dirty and try to help mold what that would look like in the future.
That is super exciting. I'm so glad that you get to work on this. You're such a joy to work with, and so inspiring in the stuff that you work on.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything else that you like to talk about? Maybe around like the best practices stuff? I know we talked about like having these conversations between a few people before you get started to get an example of the kinds of things that you might include in your action. Are there any other like common best practices for getting started in this new space?
I usually suggest people who are really excited about this is go on our code labs, and that way you can learn about how to build your first action and that back and forth, and you build your first round of conversation on the first code lab, and then the second one takes it further where you're having multi-turn conversation, and then the third one actually talks about more about best practices and how you should greet your user, because you don't want to have it where every time you see me I go, "Hi, Luke," and like the next time you see me I go, "Hi, Luke." Like it doesn't feel natural. So having that variety within the conversation is always nice too.
Yeah. It's just, it feels like such a different kind of thing to me than the kind of mobile or web development that I've done in the past. You know, like that in a way it kind of feels inherently social. You know.
You couldn't just necessarily as a developer like get this project and be like, okay, I'm gonna see you guys in a couple days, hide in a little nook and like code about yourself. Like that's generally not what you want to do, because you want to share with other people and with your designer and get feedback and see like, does this make sense? And even when it comes to the way you write the actual words, you don't want something that's too formal, because the way we write is very formal, but the way we speak is informal. And so using like the words, I will go to the store, is a little too formal. Generally we say I'm going to the store. And so it's like little things that you don't notice it until you hear it and you have other people hearing it. It's like, oh yeah, that sounds weird.
That's really interesting. Okay, so be able to have like varied responses.
Yes.
Right. Doing this like demo back and forth with actual humans beforehand.
Yep.
Keeping humans in the loop like throughout the development process, like to make sure that it sounds natural. Using more informal language. It sounds like you're an expert at all this stuff.
Well, I've been spending a lot of time with it. So, and all of this is again in the docs that we have, and we have technical docs, and we also have design docs. And so when you want to just talk about design like that, I found to be really rich of like, oh, I never thought about that. And like, how do you tell a user if you don't hear them, it's not their fault that we didn't hear them, and like owning it as like the developer of like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, versus say that again. Like those little things of like, oh yeah, I never thought of that. It's all there, which is exciting.
Wow. How long have you been working on the platform?
It's been a year recently.
Congratulations on your Google Versary.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, so it's still, again, a new space. So this is really exciting, because any developer could kind of just jump on right now, and you'll be part of the first kind of wave of people being able to build for voice.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So do you have any resources or references, things that you would like to encourage other people to look at?
Oh, my first thing I always recommend, Code Labs.
Okay.
Go to the Code Labs. It's codelabs.google.com. That is like the spot where it could really onboard you onto it. We have tons of videos as well.
Okay. Is there like code somewhere on the web somewhere that people can look at?
Yeah, so there's on GitHub.
Okay.
We have a GitHub repo that has tons of samples, and they're really great. I usually, whenever I start on a project, that's usually, like if I have an idea of what I want, I like to go there and be like, this is my boilerplate code. That, and we also have sample actions, which is this other idea that I know for me, if I'm learning something, the overhead of setup can be daunting.
Yeah.
And so there's a tool that we built out that will give you a sample agent in Dialogflow that showcases kind of different functionality. And so there's one that's called, that gives jokes. And so it highlights SSML with the audio and like that. How do you grab information and that back and forthness?
Yeah.
So instead of having to build everything from scratch, click on this one button, it generates it for you, and you could play with it, and there's code already in there that you could just copy paste and put in your space and like be able to build off of that, which is really exciting.
How cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on to chat with me today, Jessica.
Of course, my pleasure.
If people want to learn more about this stuff or like follow along as the field develops, what should they do?
Oh my gosh. So I usually recommend to people go on our Twitter. We have Actions on Google Twitter account. And if you want to communicate with other developers that are building for Actions on Google, use the hashtag AOGDevs. Let us know what your thoughts are, what you're building, and then you'll be able to share within the community too.
That's so great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We hope you liked today's show. If you have any comments or want to tell us what you'd like to hear in future episodes, you can leave a note in the comments down below. I've been Luke Davis. Chat with you next time.